December 14th, 1944. 6th Panzer Army Headquarters, a damp chateau outside Bad Münstereifel. Sepp Dietrich stands alone over the map table, 52 years old, butcher's apron long traded for the black uniform of an SS Oberstgruppenführer. The Knight's Cross with oak leaves, swords, and diamonds hangs heavy at his throat, the highest award Hitler can give. Tonight, it feels like a noose. Antwerp. 124 miles away. 4 days. That is the Führer's order. Dietrich lights a cigarette with oil-stained fingers that once cut meat in Cologne. He has done impossible things before. France, 1940, Kharkov, 1943, but the mathematics here are brutal. He commands the best formations left in the West. 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte, 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, perhaps 20,000 combat effectives in the two spearheads. Boys mostly, 17, 18, 19 years old, raised on Hitler youth camps and the belief that one German life equals 10 enemy lives. They believe it absolutely. They have 240 Panthers and Tigers between them, magnificent machines. But the roads are not magnificent. Every route west funnels through the Losheim Gap and the narrow forest tracks of the Ardennes. Single lane, icy, already jammed. One King Tiger blocks an entire battalion for hours. Fuel is worse. Berlin promised 5 million gallons. Less than half has crossed the Rhine. The rest is stuck behind bombed rail marshalling yards. A King Tiger at combat speed drinks 5 gallons per mile. Maximum internal load gives it 90 miles before it dies. Antwerp is 250 miles round trip. They will have to capture American fuel or stop dead. Dietrich exhales smoke toward the ceiling. He knows the plan is madness, but he also knows refusal is death, and he is, above all, a survivor. In the mess hall, the young officers are drunk on confidence and ersatz coffee. They slap tables when the meteorologist reports 3 more days of thick fog, perfect flying weather for no one. Allied air is grounded. The Jabos cannot hunt. Dietrich listens to their laughter and feels very old. He remembers 1918, remembers walking home from the trenches with nothing but defeat in his pocket, remembers the starvation winter of 1919 when he carried his dead baby sister because his mother had no strength left. He swore never again. So he will attack. He will throw these children into the snow and pray that speed and terror can outrun arithmetic. At 05:30 on December 16, the Ardennes erupts. 2 full regiments of the 12th SS Hitlerjugend, almost 9,000 men, surge out of the forest against the 99th Infantry Division on Elsenborn Ridge. The Americans are outnumbered 5 to 1. Many have never fired a shot in anger. The temperature is -10 Fahrenheit. Snow is knee-deep. Men fall into hidden crevices and freeze before they can scream. By noon, the Germans have gained 800 yards and believe they are winning. They do not yet understand what kind of war they have walked into. Elsenborn Ridge, December 16 through 22. The Americans fall back in good order. They do exactly what their training intended: trade frozen ground for time, dig in again on the reverse slope, call for artillery. German veterans smile when they hear the first shells. They know the physics. In dense forest and deep snow, impact-fused shells burrow 30 centimeters before detonating. Most of the blast is swallowed by the earth. Shrapnel dies quickly. Foxholes are safe. So the SS advances in rushes, diving into cover when the whistle comes, counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, then up and moving again as the muffled thud vibrates underground. It is the same lesson they learned in Russia, the same lesson that worked in Normandy against the British.
They are professionals. They are winning. For 6 days, the pattern repeats. Yard by yard, the Americans yield the forward slope. German company commanders begin calculating which village they will sleep in on Christmas Eve. Casualties are heavy, far heavier than planned, but acceptable for a breakthrough operation. The boys keep coming. Some attack with nothing but grenades and bayonets when their ammunition runs out. Their officers have to physically restrain the most fanatical from charging machine guns alone. On the American side, Colonel Bud Miley, commanding the 120th Infantry Regiment, walks the line every night. He finds 18-year-old privates shaking so hard they cannot light cigarettes. He tells them the same thing each time: hold the ridge, just one more day. By December 22nd, the 12th SS has spent itself against the ridge like waves against a breakwater. They are down to 55–60% strength in many companies, but the breakthrough feels close. One more effort. On the evening of December 23rd, the fog finally begins to lift. P-47 Thunderbolts appear in the sky for the first time in a week. The Germans look up and feel the first cold touch of fear. That same night, in a quiet command post near Spa, Belgium, Dwight D. Eisenhower signs a short order. Proximity-fused ammunition is released for use against ground targets in the V-Corps sector, effective immediately. Only 8 men in the European theater knew this weapon existed. Now every artillery battery from Elsenborn to Monschau receives crates marked in red, handle like eggs, top secret. Inside each crate, 105mm and 155mm shells with a strange bulbous nose instead of the usual pointed fuse. No one below battalion level is told what they are.
December 24th, 1944. 09:17 hours. The remnants of the 12th SS Hitlerjugend, perhaps 6,000 men who can still walk, assemble in a forest clearing south of Elsenborn. They're packed tight, shoulder to shoulder. Officers want one final human wave to crack the ridge before the American Air Force makes movement impossible. A forward observer of the 196th Field Artillery Battalion lies prone on a snow-covered knoll 800 meters away. He watches the gray mass gather through binoculars. He speaks quietly into his radio. Battalion 3, concentration 402, fire for effect, VT in effect. 30 kilometers behind him, 12 155mm long toms elevate as one. The shells leave the muzzles at 2,800 feet per second. They climb invisibly through the cold sky. The first the Germans hear is nothing at all. Then the air above them detonates. 144 shells burst at exactly 30 feet altitude in a perfect staggered pattern. There are no craters, only steel rain falling straight down at 3,000 feet per second. The clearing becomes a slaughter pen. Men simply cease to exist. One moment a company is forming ranks. The next there is only red snow and separate limbs hanging from pine branches. The survivors, those on the very edge, try to dig, but the next salvo is already on the way, and the next. 12 batteries firing continuous time-on-target missions. The forest floor turns into a churning carpet of steel fragments. A 19-year-old SS Rottenführer named Helmut Schreiber will be captured 3 days later. He tells his interrogator, "We thought we knew artillery. We had lived under Katyushas and Soviet 152s. This was different. The shells did not come from the ground. They came from God. 1 second you were alive, the next second you were missed." By noon, the attack is over. The 12th SS Hitlerjugend no longer exists as a formation capable of offensive action. In 4 hours, they lose more men than in the previous 8 days combined. Sepp Dietrich receives the reports in fragments. 26th Regiment, combat ineffective. 89th Panzergrenadier Battalion, down to 40 men. Enemy artillery exploding in the air, no defense possible. He sits in silence for a long time. Then he asks for a map and a red pencil,
and quietly begins crossing out unit symbols that will never move again. January 1945. The Ardennes offensive peters out in snow and exhaustion. The furthest German penetration is 35 miles short of the Meuse, 90 miles short of Antwerp. Sepp Dietrich is relieved of command on January 8th. He will never lead another major attack. The 1st and 12th SS Panzer Divisions together lose approximately 14,000 men killed, wounded, and missing in the northern sector alone, roughly 60% of their December 16th rifle strength. Most of the casualties occur after December 24th. In his post-war interrogation, Dietrich is asked why the offensive failed. He answers with uncharacteristic simplicity. We had courage. They had physics. He lives until 1966. In his memoirs, he devotes exactly 3 paragraphs to the Battle of the Bulge. He never once mentions the word fuse. The proximity fuse remains classified until 1946. When the details finally emerge, German generals read the technical reports in stunned silence. Many refuse to believe it was possible with 1944 technology. It was. Inside each shell, a miniature radar the size of a coffee cup, a wet cell battery activated by 20,000 G setback force, a thyrotron tube that could survive the shock of firing and still calculate Doppler shift accurate to 20 feet. Total production cost per fuse in 1944, $236. Total German lives saved by not having it, 0. The true margin of victory was decided years earlier in laboratories at Johns Hopkins and in factories in Ohio, long before the first German boot touched Belgian snow. Courage walked into the Ardennes. Physics was waiting. And physics does not bleed. It does not freeze. It does not forgive arithmetic. That is the final cold truth the survivors carried home. The war was not won on the battlefields of 1944-45. It was won in 1942, on drafting tables and production lines, when American industry decided that courage alone would no longer be enough. Everything after that was just delivery.